What's up, everybody? Amish Country Mets fan here for a second edition of Talking Farm on the Farm. Like to take a little bit deeper dive into some of the prospects. Every week, I think I'll be going deeper and deeper into some of these guys. This week, I have some guys you may not have heard of, some guys that we may never even see in the majors. But I don't want to just do guys that everybody knows and that we always hear about. I mean, I am going to touch on the big. I call them the big five, I guess, at this point. Not even. Now I'm down to about four. Now that Beatty's up. That's the big news since last weekend. My first one of these, Brett Beatty got called up to the majors. Great to see him and Alvarez. It'll be nice to see them in the lineup together more often. So I'll go ahead and touch first on the guys we know. Mark Vientos is still lighting it up at AAA. Over his last 7 games, hitting .438. Over the last 7 days, I should say. He's hitting .438, 571 OBP, 750 slugging. Comes to a 1.321 OPS. He got a homer and 4 RBIs. Just yesterday, he went 3 for 4 with 2 runs and a walk. I mean, the guy's on fire. Overall on the season, he's at 368, 6 homers, 17 RBIs, and a 1.163 OPS. I would think at some point we're going to see him up. Might take an injury or two for it to actually happen, but I think you've got to give him a shot. If he's just scorching the ball. But that's as far as I'll go on him. Our other big guy, Ronny Mauricio, the big news is he started to play second base. I always said that if we're going to see him as a Met, he's going to have to move positions, and they're finally starting to do that. I'd like to see him get some outfield reps as well. But I can understand them just wanting to move him to second and see what he can do there, because he can always move McNeil to the outfield, although I prefer McNeil at second. But that's neither here nor there. Over his last 7 days, 389, 421 OBP, 500 slugging, 921 OPS, a ribby. But here's the big thing. No walks. Mauricio's biggest knock and what will keep him down in the minors longer is his lack of plate discipline. It's improved this year, but he needs to be able to walk more. He needs to, I mean, he's swinging and hitting the ball and getting hits left and right, but in the majors, it's harder to hit these pitchers, and you've got to be able to lay off pitches and draw your walks. And obviously, the Mets' philosophy is on base. Like, they love on base guys, so if we're going to see Mauricio, he's got to improve the plate discipline. He has been, but no walks over the last 7 days. Something to keep an eye on. Overall, 360, 407 OBP, 720 slugging, 1.127 OPS. What can you say? The guy's been phenomenal. Another big prospect I want to touch on just quickly, Jett Williams. Jett Williams moved to center field. They threw him out in center. Apparently he's looked pretty good out there. That's good to see, because our infield's going to be the logjam for a while. So even if it does take a few years for him to come up, he doesn't really have a spot in the infield. So good to see him play in the outfield. Over his last 7 days, 478 OBP. Great to see him get on base. His other numbers are a little pedestrian, but he does have a WRC plus of 156, which is pretty high up there in the Florida State League. So that's good to see. And then last but not least, for the big guns in the minors, Alex Ramirez. He's down in Brooklyn. He's currently on a 9-game hitting streak, but when it was down to just 7 games, he was actually slashing 393, 452, 571 during that stretch. He's cooled off the last 2 games. He's still got 2 hits to get that to a 9-game hit streak, but he went 1 for 5 those nights. Doesn't matter. This kid's he's gonna be the goods. I really feel good about him. Probably another year or 2 before we see him, but I really expect big things out of him. He's definitely will be at the very least in AA by the I'd say June, July, maybe August at the latest. The kid's gonna be moving up the prospect. Up the minor league system. That's what I wanted to say. A little chilly out here, so it's getting to me. But, alright, now to touch on some guys that maybe we don't all know. Take a little deeper dive here. So, first guy I want to go on is a reliever. His name is Wilken Ramos, 22-year-old, pitching down in Brooklyn. This guy, again, he may never see the majors. But, let's do a little scouting report on him. He signed as an international free agent with the A's. Went from the A's to the Pirates system. Then the Mets claimed him from the Pirates in the minor league Rule 5 draft in 2022. He's a thin, lanky guy. He throws from a 3/4 arm slot. He's got a high leg kick. Throws a two-seam fastball with a velo that sits between 92 and 96. He can touch 100. He's below average spin rate on that fastball, though. Only around 2,100 RPMs. It is a heavy pitch. He induces a lot of ground balls. His ground ball rate in 2022 off of that two-seamer was 61%. That's pretty high. He also throws a curve and a change. Both are below average. His curve sits low 70s to low 80s. He's minimal break on it. And he does have some trouble throwing strikes. But this year so far in Brooklyn, in 5 games, he's 1-0 with a 1.13 ERA. 8 innings pitched, 11 Ks, and a whip of 1. So, just a guy to keep an eye on. I don't know that he'll amount to anything, but sometimes you never know with these minor league arms. We could have a future guy out of the pennant in that, or who knows if he becomes a trade chip if he can keep pitching decent. The next guy I wanted to touch on is another relief pitcher, Nathan Lavender. He's a lefty. He's down in AA, 23 years old. He was a 14th round pick back in 2021. Also throws from a 3/4 arm slot. He's got a bit of a lower release point. He throws a 4-seamer, a 2-seamer. He throws his 2-seamer more. Sits around 90. He's not a big velocity guy. He throws a slider mid to high 70s. It's got big slurvy break. He throws it a lot to lefties. He's got an erratic change that he throws down in the zone. It sometimes gets confused with his fastball because his fastball velo can dip so low that his changeup velo is almost the same at times. But another guy to keep an eye on. He's this year so far 6th and 1/3, 10 Ks, a 2.84 ERA, and a .63 WHIP. So he's pitching pretty well. You never know. Lefties, man, you can always use a lefty out of the pen. So we'll see how his trajectory goes. Again, these are guys, not necessarily guys that are lighting up like anybody's prospect list. They're not even on prospect lists, to be honest. But I don't want to talk about those guys. I wanted to focus some on just guys that are playing well, that maybe we find a diamond in the rough. 2 more guys left. The next one is junior. I want to say Tillien is his last name. He's an infielder down in St. Lucie. 6 foot, 168 pounds, 20 years old. Over his last 7 games, he's hit .333 with a 500 OBP, 667 slugging, and a 1.167 OPS. He signed as a 17-year-old. Scouts were saying that they thought he'd become an outfielder, but scouts in the Met system liked him to stay at short. So he's played short, 2nd, and 3rd, primarily a shortstop though. Overall, he's a solid defender with above average speed. He's hitting .289 over the course of the season with an 821 OPS. So just another guy, may not amount to anything. He's down way into lower levels, but just some names to keep an eye on. And the last guy, this guy's smoking hot in AA. He's actually been on some prospect lists. I think he's fallen off a little bit. His name is JT Schwartz down in AA. Primarily plays first and base and left field. He did play a little bit of third base down at Summer League ball a couple of years ago. He was drafted as a mostly, everybody was saying he was a very good contact hitter, which is not something you think about so much for the first baseman. But yeah, they always projected him to hit for high average. He was a 4th rounder in the 2021 draft. Not viewed as a slugger, but lately he's been tearing the cover off the ball. His last 7 days, 381 batting average, 435 on base, 714 slugging, which is definitely a step up from where it has been, and 1.149 OPS. Overall for the season, 275 average, 357 OBP, 500 slugging, 852 OPS, 5 doubles, 2 homers, 15 RBIs. Again, he may not be much of anything. We don't know that. Time will tell, but he's in Double-A right now. He's scorching the ball, so that's always good to see. It's good to see these minor league kids playing well, because at the very least, even if they don't help us in the majors, maybe another team sees that and they want to take a flyer on them and will offer us something for these guys. Sometimes that's what you need, especially guys that are not so well known, because that doesn't so much deplete the system as much. I mean, yeah, it'll suck if they go somewhere else and become stars, but if you can get a star in return for them, then hey, I think it's fair. So that's Talking Farm on the Farm. Let me know if of any prospects you may want to hear about. Maybe you know of an obscure guy or a very well-known guy. Just let me know. I'm going to do a little bit of both. I'm obviously going to keep track of those big 4 every week, just because those are guys that everybody knows. Parado will be another guy that I'll probably talk about a lot. I didn't dive into him this week, but yeah, we'll get into that. Yeah, stay tuned for more content. Please like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate anybody out there that's watching. And let's go Mets.